So today we have our subject matter experts from Opsera, Vishnu, who is the head of product, and Sundar, who is the head of delivery and architecture. Also have Shrey and Tejas, who are our star software engineers on the team, to help answer any questions you have and also facilitate a demo for you today. With that, let's have an engaging session on how to troubleshoot CI/CD pipelines faster with the Opsera team here today. Thank you. Take it away, Vishnu.
Ticket for getting the logs, logging into the server, and that has to be passed on. So there's a lot of time getting wasted there. So with respect to Opsera, what we are doing is we want to take away all these problems from the end users in terms of the finger pointing or what logs you need to look into, and also you don't have to raise any tickets in order to look for the failures at all. So that will basically reduce your MTTR, your failures, and also your MTTI, mean time to identify an issue.
Vishnu, before we go on, I'd like to run a poll to check what the most common challenges are.
That's an interesting question. What are your top challenges in troubleshooting CI/CD pipelines?
I'm sure there are more than what you see on the screen, so feel free to type them on chat. Yeah, not surprising that they're distributed across, and looks like we are all, as much as we like to have multiple tools to get our job done, they're also come in our way, especially when we are troubleshooting. So looking at multiple tool logs takes up time, and I think Vishnu and team can talk through how that can be addressed. And if you have any specific questions around that, like I said, please feel free to put them on chat. Thank you.
Right. Just like everyone else, right? Like we also face the same issue, like in our previous experiences, right? Especially Sundar coming from like a huge technical background, covering across cloud to applications. So he has faced the problem. I have faced the problem, and Tejas and Shrey, they have faced the problem. So we discussed last year, like how do we resolve this issue, right? That's when as a team, we came to a solution where we want to give access to the logs to everyone who is part of the pipeline. That includes security team or quality team with readable access, where they don't have to log into the server. And also we want to make sure the logs, the people are looking at it, it is contextualized and correlated. That was the key thing. And we at Opsera, what we did is we built a solution around that, and probably Sundar, Tejas, and Shrey can double click on that and explain more how we did it, and maybe we can share the UI and show how to troubleshoot the pipeline faster with Opsera.
Vishnu, I'd like to run another poll because it looks like the most common problem that was discussed was multiple tool logs. I'm curious about how many tools people have in their environment. Let me run another poll.
Okay. I think people are counting with fingers because there's a lot of tools usually in the enterprise pipelines.
Right, and probably people have to recollect how many tools there are. Remember,
right.
It takes time, I know. All right, so I'll give a couple more seconds. Wow, 40% of you have 10 plus tools in your environment. Not surprised, but amazed. Yeah, thank you.
So Tejas, Shrey, and Sundar, feel free to chime in, right? The concept behind the bill manifest that we have, and how easy it is to troubleshoot whenever there is a pipeline failure, and how can we go around in terms of identifying the logs, identifying the pipeline, and then going to the logs and going back to the pipeline. And let's talk about how we are resolving that issue today.
Yeah, thanks, Vishnu. I think one important aspect is, we know this from our discussions, right? Getting everything in one space, putting that context so you can see how everything is correlated. That's a huge role, because if you have to go to each individual tool and it's siloed and you have to dig through the logs there, that's time you're taking away, and that's going to reduce your MTTI and everything. So being able to have all your logs in one place, have that quick skim through, that plays a pretty big role in being able to reduce time for the time it takes to find the error in your pipeline.
Sundar, when we made this architectural decision, and you made some very valid points, what are the challenges the enterprise team, the development team, and the operations team are facing. And like initially, like we were skeptical whether we were able to deliver it, but like with the team that we have, we were able to pull it off. Do you want to talk about the architectural decision behind that, and also like the benefits the users are going to get, like outside of the process, right? Like what are the technology benefits that they are going to get from engineers' point of view?
Sure. So there are a couple of major backbone of all these things, right? So one is ability to bring in logs from various tools to a single page, right? We should be able to see the logs from multiple tools as part of the pipeline. It could be from a build, or it could be from a code scan, or it could be from a deployment, or various stages of the logs getting into that single space, right? That's one, right? The second is to ability to compare between the two execution. Let's say I have executed a build or a pipeline yesterday, I'm executing it today. For some reason, the today pipeline is taking a lot of time, or it's taking more than expected to complete it, right? So how do we debug this? How do we understand on which stage it is taking a lot of time, on which stage it's probably getting stuck, or which stage we have to go back and fine tune, right? The ability to compare between the two pipelines, the console logs of two pipelines, right? That's more important, right? When we design this whole flow, we have kept these two important problem statement to come up with architecture. First step is we have built a system where we can bring in all the tool stacks logs in a single stop, right? You can see the logs in a real time. You can see the logs, go back and see the historical logs as well, right? Second, we can start comparing the logs and see what went wrong on the second pipeline versus what went wrong on the first run, right? Yeah, of course, the third option is to alert and notification, that whenever something goes wrong, whenever some part of a string like error exception happens, alert me. All of the standard features are there in Opsera, but these two are main important backbone for the whole architecture.
Right. More than the architecture, like we also think this is going to be a major milestone when it comes to the DevOps, right? Like where it's going to help the operations team and the engineers team immensely by bringing them together in one single plane, where they can troubleshoot the issue and solve the issue, rather like going and finding and identifying like what has caused the pipeline to fail. So that's the major advantage, and we definitely feel like this is going to be a huge advantage to everybody who is part of the who is involved in the pipeline that is getting triggered into production. Yeah, Opsera is a no-code DevOps orchestration platform. So the reason like why we have built Opsera is basically there are a lot of tools in the market in DevOps, and there are a lot of orchestration players in the market, but there are no one single white box solution that is available where like they give flexibility and empowerment to the developers with respect to the toolchain automation. So we have three modules within Opsera. One is the toolchain automation, where you can pick and choose the tools that you need for your technology stack, right? The technology stack can be SaaS-based applications like Salesforce, or an infrastructure as a code, or SDLC. So the developers will have the choice to pick the tools they want. And then like we have declarative pipelines, and we call it as no-code pipelines, where you can drag and drop and build the security and quality gates in minutes. And you can build this domain-based pipelines, as I said, like to SDLC, SaaS to IAC. The third one is the unified insights. We have 100 plus KPIs with 5 dimensions, starting from planning to pipeline, the security, quality, and then the operations. And we have built these KPIs using the baseline from Department of Defense, NIST, and then the DORA, the DevOps Research Association. So these are the 3 modules that is available in Opsera. These are independent modules again, and this can be used together as well, right? And today we are going to talk about the pipelines and how to troubleshoot the pipeline much faster using Opsera solution. what do we offer when it comes to unified logs and build blueprints, right? Unified logs and build blueprints is like a sub-module within Opsera. When you choose toolchain automation or a pipeline, right? This option gets enabled for you out of the box. You get end-to-end visibility of your pipeline and searchable logs for every tool and toolchain. And you can also you get unified logs from all your tools in one single place in one single console, you without logging into multiple tools. The major portion, as I discussed earlier, the logs are contextualized and correlated for actionable intelligence. So you'll be able to make a call and the tickets are created automated way because we have native integration with collaboration tools like Slack, Microsoft Teams, and ITSM tools like ServiceNow for alerts and notifications. And also you can use these logs and build blueprints for your audit and compliance purpose, where you can download it, put it on the Jira ticket. So you can, like, down the line 1 year, you have some audit, they'll be able to come into Opsera pipeline, look into the logs, or the logs that is printed, downloaded from Opsera that can be used for your audit and compliance purpose as well. So what are the benefits that you're going to get from the logs that we provide? One is, like, we reduce MTTI to 0, right? So you don't have to worry about like where to identify and what failed. All the information, the moment you log into the portal or the moment you look into the Slack, you will have the information where the pipeline failed, who has triggered the pipeline, who needs to work on it. There is a ticket already created. Someone would have already acknowledged it. By the time you log in, the action will be already in progress. Next one is improve the MTBF. You can improve the mean time between failures and also improve the MTTR significantly. So these are the benefits that comes out of the box, and you don't have to write a single piece of code to get to this unified logs and build blueprints.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight the unified logs from all your tools in one place because that was the biggest pain point in the poll. So I just wanted to highlight that once again, that is a huge out of the box value you would get with Opsera is you can bring all your logs and tools in one logs from all your tools in one place, and it's not just an aggregation, but it's actually contextualized that there is a context between what a failure and which tool log to look up, and all the contextualization correlation that is done, which Tejas and team will show in the demo later on. And also on that note, Vishnu, maybe you can show an example of the types of number of tools that we integrate and talk about any other tools that people want and how easy it is to bring that into the platform.
Right. So we have like 35 plus integration that is available in Opsera today. These are the tools that we support. On top of it, we support all the cloud that is in the market, right? So you can even get the CD KPIs as well. And if you have your own tool, for instance, you have an in-house testing tool or a security tool you want to bring in, and it takes easy, and it's very easy for us to build that integration for you. And you can start getting the logs for those tools as well in the contextualized and correlated manner, right? So that is also possible. And it's either you can expose the API for us by hosting the tool in your end, or you can give the image to us and we can manage the lifecycle management and we will provide the integration. That we can do that as well. And we integrate pretty much with all the logging and monitoring, where you'll be able to see like what's happening around your pipeline after the deployment and before the deployment as well. And as I said, like the ITSM collaboration, the deployment, security and quality. This is not an exhaustive list, right? Like, and we do have more integrations when you log into the Opsera. These are some of the tools that we are showing here based on the 80-20, right? Like these are the prominent tools that is used in the market today, but we do have more integrations with this Opsera.
Yeah, just curious if anybody wants to speak up. Does this cover the tools that you use? Most 40% of you said you have 10 plus tools. If there's anything missing, feel free to put that on chat. We'd like to know what are the most commonly used tools out there. And I'm sure the peers that joined here will also benefit from, what are the most commonly used tools.
So
Yeah.
they just, let's play.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Vasant, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the slide you were showing earlier, the tools, overall tools, you have integrations, right? So I am really interested to see how does it work with Elastic Stack. So do you guys have any documentation or slides related to Elastic Stack and how Opsera integrates with it?
Yes, we do have documentation that we offer to our customers who are using the Elastic Stack. But if you are looking for any specific questions, we can definitely double click on that and we can chat. So as part of Opsera, I can give a quick 30 seconds, right? As part of Opsera, every customer, they get a dedicated data plane, and we are a SaaS-based solution. And in the data plane, like each customer will have their dedicated vault, log aggregators, and database. So if you are bringing in any tools, what we do is like we ask the customers to provide the secrets and credentials in the vault, which will be completely secured and will be accessed only by programmatic way. And you will be able to change, rotate the password, secrets, and tokens based on your governance, or like whenever you change the password at the elastic level or at the tool level. But like all the configuration that goes into the tool registry on the left now under operations here, that is basically connected to the vault. That's how we integrate with it. And we do have microservices on top of it, the node orchestration layer, which takes care of the entire orchestration in the process during the pipeline execution or toolchain automation or insights.
Got it. So one last question. So I know Opsera has their own insights platform, right? So Opsera Insights. So does this integrate with other tools, other reporting tools you were mentioning in the integration one, like again, Elastic Stack? So let's say if a customer has a data in already Elastic Stack, does your insights can connect to the Elastic Stack and generate the insights, or does it have to be from the tools?
No, not necessarily, right? Like as I said, every tool will have the logs at their own end, right? Like there will be a path where the logs will be stored. Our log aggregators will connect to those tools, right? Be it cloud or be it tools, right? Or be it any service that you have, and we'll be able to pull the metadata. And once we have the metadata, our Opsera secret engine that we have will basically contextualize, correlate it, and give the corresponding logs to you. Doesn't matter. We don't look into the like whether it's a tool, service, or cloud, but we go by the category. So if you are looking at the Elastic Stack at the deployment level, we pull the KPIs and give you the KPIs on the deployment. What really happened during the deployment. That's how we do it.
Thanks, Vishnu.
Thanks, Vasant. Let's play here, right? Like I'm a release manager and I got a notification there is a pipeline that got failed in the security step. So Tejas and Shrey are the dev team and Sundar is managing the project, right? So I need to know where it failed. So if I join the call, I will have access to the portal, or like if Tejas is already on the call, I can ask Tejas, can you open the pipeline that failed in security step? I need to look into the logs, and if the team needs to give an exception to push the code into production with the security issue, I need to look into those logs. So that's a scenario. Now Tejas can walk us through like how we will basically troubleshoot the pipeline with the security or the deployment step. And he will also show you how we can go to the pipeline view from this particular view.
So yeah, following that example, right? One nice component is that it breaks down where the pipelines and where they're failing. So I can see pipelines failing security step, and if I just click on this one, for example, right, and we come here, I can see the logs of what's happened with these steps. So this is an execution of SonarQube. And I can see, the commit ID and everything. And as I keep going through the logs, I'm able to see what happened. So if I go to the bottom, I can see the execution failure. It did not pass the quality gate. So this project did not pass the quality gate. And then up here, I can see why. So we can see the reliability rating, the security rating, number of critical issues is too high, and there's a vulnerability as well. So being able to identify these 4 conditions that the pipeline did not meet, now we have a much stronger idea on what the security issues were. And like Vishnu mentioned, whether we need to make that call on, are these acceptable exceptions? Do we proceed ignoring these security concerns? The fact that the product does not pass the quality gate, now that we can see a better idea of why it hasn't passed, that kind of gives us the information quickly to take that type of call. So, I mean, Vishnu, with this type of knowledge, as the release manager, what would you say would be the next step in following up on this information?
So when this failure happened, right, like I expect a ticket to be created, and with the pipeline that we have, that ticket will have already been created. And if you go to the top of the logs here, Tejas, I would be able to see the person who has triggered the pipeline, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So if you look at the second line on this log, I know like who has triggered this pipeline, and I will have information firsthand who I need to contact to resolve this issue and get some more insights. So like I can make a call whether I can provide an exception or not. Sometimes before I make an exception call, I want to compare the last release to the current release, right? Like on the current failure, why it failed, because my staging push has been like succeeded, but like for some reason the production build is failing. And Tejas, can you show me like how do I compare two different logs, like where I have like multiple quality steps, security steps, right?
Yeah, sure. So I think we have something we can do side by side. Let's take this Kafka pipeline. We can, let's say we take the second run, right? We do the same thing on this end. So these are the same pipeline. I remember this because I had executed these, but looking at the pipelines, right? We can see that this one has the 4 steps and this one has 9. So I remember we went through this and we could see it had failed in run number 2, the second run of the second execution of this pipeline. We could see that it had failed the security step because it was actually unable to run the scan at all. There was an issue with the scan being executed, and so the pipeline had failed. So we were able to resolve that, and then we were able to proceed with the pipeline execution. And we can see here in run number 3 that this time it's gone ahead and gone through with the execution, and everything has succeeded. It's passed, and everything went forward. And I was able to proceed with the next few steps, unit testing. You were saying, right, Vishnu, multiple steps afterwards. So it went through the unit testing, then the Cypress unit testing, and etc. before it finally was going through the push and the deployment. So this is kind of a quick way to be able to identify, in run number 2, we can see what went wrong, and then run number 3, we can verify that this time things went right. So being able to compare these two logs side by side can be a huge benefit in, when troubleshooting. Have the issues been fixed? Does everything look okay in the logs now compared to how they did before?
Right. As we said earlier, right, like that's based on the poll, like 70% people said like we have 10 plus tools. And if you look at here, this is one single console, like where you can get the logs of particular pipeline run. And you can also compare it from like the previous step to current step. So for instance, you have a governance, like where you have to take a shift left approach, where you have mandate to complete your security and quality before any code that moves into production. You can really compare and see which application or particular organization is missing the security or the quality. And also you will get to know the logs of each of these tools in this console here.
Yeah. And maybe one more thing to kind of highlight. In this pipeline execution, for example, it stopped once it was unable to run the security scan, but that may not always necessarily be the case. Different people will have different pipeline setups and configurations. So if the pipeline were to continue without running that code scan, it's good to be able to go back to these logs and see, what were the results? Did this code scan actually run? If it's possible for the pipeline to continue as well.
Thanks, Tejas. Any questions, Steve, on the blueprints?
I think just one more thing to kind of highlight is that we went straight into the double click, but actually, if you can always view the pipeline the pipeline configuration itself. So we can go to this pipeline, and here it'll also give you an overview of what's happened. So being able to identify, these were all the steps that were executed in each run. We can see what's happened, and then if we click into one of these, it'll give us precisely the same thing. So there's always the overview, but if you want to go into the blueprints for the double click, for being able to compare builds, visually see the differences from run to run, that would be the use case of that. So the overview is always here if you want to look at one individual pipeline. and see how the runs have been executing. And then we also provide the option for being able to drill down into a particular pipeline run and compare it against the runs before or after it.
You cover all the use cases stages that you wanted to cover?
So I'll go back to this one. So, I mean, that was with the security, right? We can do the same thing with the deployment. I mean, the quality is there, but unfortunately, we don't, I mean, nothing is failed there. But if we come here, right, and we go to this one, so this is one of our Salesforce pipelines. We can see the steps that have all happened. So the XML package was created, then validated, unit tested, the backup, and then the deployment. So if we go to this deployment step and we scroll down, we can see the package XML and everything, but we see the deployment failed because it's missing this particular Apex class. So this is just another example of with security, you can see what the security issues were and why your pipeline would have failed security step. And here you can see with the deployment, what went wrong with your deployment. So in this particular case, it looks like this XML package is missing a particular Apex class, which is why it ended up failing. But you can also go through and see the other steps, right? So you can see the package creation, the package validation. So the main purpose of being able to see all these tooled one by one, or rather all these steps one by one in this type of view, is that you no longer have to look individually for each logs, for each execution's individual logs and try and identify where the problem is. With this type of view, you can see exactly what happened in the entire pipeline, and you can get the context behind why this deployment has failed. So it'll reduce time in identifying what your issues are.
So if you look at here, right, like whether it's an SDLC or a SFDC or an IAC, we give the same capability to the users in terms of troubleshooting. And the framework is going to be the same when it comes to Opsera in terms of like using the pipelines or using the insights. And that is one of the biggest achievement. And it's a white box orchestration where everybody will have visibility. That's the biggest thing that like today any enterprise would need, right? Like so that like they can reduce the MTTR. Right. And it's not just that like you get this view only when the pipeline is executed in Opsera, right? Like as I said, like these are independent modules, be it unified insights or pipeline or toolchain. You'll be able, if you have a Jenkins pipeline at your end and you're pushing the log to a central console, and if you want to get the similar view, you'll be able to do that. You don't have to choose toolchain and pipeline within Opsera. You can connect your existing Jenkins pipeline that you are running, and we'll be able to provide similar insights. Tejas, if you can show me the Jenkins pipeline correlation, right? The comparison in the logs section.
One thing that we have is the tool registry. So being able to bring in your own Jenkins is an option. So I think this particular one, the one I use. And if we select a Jenkins job, so I ran a test job yesterday. So you can choose a particular Jenkins that you've registered within Opsera, and it'll give you a list of the jobs available. So like Vishnu's mentioned, there's integration with the Jenkins, your own Jenkins pipelines, that if you go ahead and register it within the Opsera system and you start executing your pipelines from that Jenkins, we can still fetch the log. So this is just a small example, but it'll give you the console output of what this external Jenkins was. So this was not a Jenkins created within, this was not an Opsera pipeline, but an external Jenkins pipeline. But we can still provide this type of logs to the user.
Right. It's not restricted to Jenkins, and if you have any other orchestrator with you today and you want to integrate with Opsera, we can definitely work with you and integrate it, and we can provide the same capability just like what we offer in the build blueprint section as part of pipeline execution. And you can also do the same side-by-side comparison as well, like in terms of the pipeline that executed at your end with your own tool, and you'll be able to get the same thing from us.
Yeah, I think one thing to kind of highlight, Vishnu, is that the troubleshooting guidelines that we're talking about, we're using the SFDC and SDLC pipelines as examples, but like you mentioned, they're going to be applicable to even other pipelines. So data pipelines, like you mentioned, the IAC pipelines. These types, like being able to correlate your steps and get them together in one single view with the console logs available. I think that's going to be applicable for any type of pipeline, not just the SDLC ones that we're highlighting here.
That's right. And if you're wondering about the time taken for the integration, right? Like if you have the connectivity to your network, if you are having your own Jenkins and you want to use our insights, there is a connectivity. It hardly takes 15-20 minutes, and you will be able to get the insights and the logs, and also you'll be able to get the KPIs in terms of how your pipeline is maturing, right? In terms of all the important KPIs, what DORA says, like with respect to end-to-end cycle time, or be it change failure rate or deployment frequency, or your what is your CD status, your security status, and the quality posture. You get everything in like less than 15-30 minutes if you have a connectivity with Opsera. That's the beauty of Opsera, right? Like you don't have to write any piece of code for integrating, and it's completely UI based. And we also like support the pipelines via CLI as well for the high code developers as well. So we are providing the flexibility with respect to the high code developers, low code developers, and also we give the executive view or the manager view or the developer view when you want to look into the KPIs on like all the 360-degree dimension that we are talking about with respect to planning to the operations.
Thank you, Tejas, for the demo. I'd like to open it up to questions if anybody has any questions about the demo or any best practices you'd like to share. Or if there are use cases you want Tejas or Vishnu to dig into, they'll be happy to show more about the product as well. I do have a question here. If we have our own internal tool, how long will it take to integrate?
Yeah, sure. So I think if it's, I think it all depends on the tool. So if the tool, we have a lot of tools that are already there in our catalog. And if it's that case, then as Vishnu said, it shouldn't take longer than 10 to 15 minutes. You just have to add it to our tool registry, which is like a CMDB of sorts. And then once you start using it, like the logs will start to coming in, and it should be good. But I think for other tools, I think the process we follow is that we have a data transformer in the back where we contextualize and sequence all the logs. So I think it just depends on, we first look at the logs and see how it's going to fit into our framework. I think, Tejas, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, you definitely covered it. One, there's working, the work we've done so far, there's already a number of tools that we can integrate with pretty easily. SonarQube. For SCM, we have GitLab, GitHub, Bitbucket. For issue tracking, we have Jira. So there's already a number of tools that we're covering. And like like Vishnu had mentioned, actually, we look more at the category and the individual tools as well. So being able to take, what your tool is doing, what its function in your environment, and being able to kind of extract that. That's how we contextualize the log. So if you have something for your code security or your container security, right? Being able to look at the function of that tool, kind of extract the metadata from it, and kind of normalize it, contextualize it, put it in our own engine. We're able to provide that pretty quickly, pretty efficiently. I think so far we've been able to work with customers to take their own tools and see the best ways that they want it kind of imported into our system.
All right. Hey, thank you everybody for joining. Hopefully you had some takeaways from this session on how to troubleshoot CI/CD pipelines faster. Especially most of you have told that you use 10 plus tools and your biggest pain point is getting all the logs in one place. Hopefully you were able to see the value.